This is Kentuckiana's 24-hour news channel, WHAS 11. Live at 11 from the leader in television news, Gary Rodemeyer, Melissa Swan, and Chuck Taylor. This is Kentuckiana's news channel, WHAS 11.
7 o'clock edition of the newscast. We, of course, have been on the air since before 7 o'clock this evening, telling you about tornadoes. A lot of tornadic activity. We know at least 2 tornadoes have touched down in Bullitt County, Kentucky. And
let's bring you up to date just a little bit with that. We know the tornado damage is at least centralized in a subdivision, or a couple of subdivisions that are located just east of I-65 and just west of Preston Highway, around North Bullitt High School, and also some of the worst of it was down in Mount Washington. We're going to go first tonight to George Sells, who has been aloft in Sky 11 since this storm swept through the area just around 7 o'clock tonight. And George, you're still a much activity out there, I guess, and what's going on at this hour?
Well, Gary, it's very busy, a whole lot of activity. If you take a look down right now, the most obvious concern from the air is traffic. Brooks Road has been shut down. In fact, roads coming into this area all around are closed down. They're trying to keep as many people out as possible. About the only activity you see out in the areas of damage, which you really can't see too well because of the darkness, but it's a few flashing lights here and there from emergency vehicles. If you look out this way, we're kind of spinning around now to take a look at some of these emergency vehicles out this way. That's about all that's happening, and it's tough to see from the air. Of course, the really dramatic pictures came from earlier today. If we can go to some videotape. Here you see what this looked like before darkness fell. Home after home just completely destroyed. From looking at our aircraft charts up here, it appears to be about a 7-mile stretch, beginning right around I-65 and heading all the way down to Mount Washington. At some points, it's a good quarter-mile wide, and there is an incredible amount of destruction. I think it's safe to say hundreds of homes completely destroyed by this twister or set of twisters that moved through the area around 7 o'clock this evening. Where there weren't homes destroyed, there were trees down, that sort of thing. And it's an absolute mess. It was absolutely shocking. Gary and Melissa have both said throughout the night that as you first moved into this area, we weren't quite knowing what to expect. I don't think anybody knew that they were going to see what we saw. We moved over now over Preston Highway here, and you're looking down at what appears to be the main command center. That's the fire station that is across Preston Highway and about a quarter-mile down from one of these subdivisions that has had the most damage in the area. That's the Tanyard Springs subdivision here in the North Bullitt County area. We're in North Bullitt County just below the Jefferson County line, and there's a lot of activity happening down there right now. A lot of people trying to get in there and just see what there is to see if anybody's hurt, trying to find people and that sort of thing. Back to you guys.
All right, thank you very much, George Sells, who has been aloft in Sky 11 from the very beginning of our coverage now 4 hours ago.
We witnessed what we believe is the worst tornado damage in this area in Kentuckiana since the '74 tornado. And back on the ground tonight, officials are picking through the damage, trying to gather all the information they can.
Jim Turner is at Tanyard Springs subdivision, one of the hardest hit areas that is just off Preston Highway in Bullitt County. Jim, what can you tell us there tonight?
We're just outside the entrance to the Tanyard Springs subdivision. This is an area that they've closed off to the public. They've closed it to the media. The most extensive damage is just off behind me, where you can see all the lights, the flashing lights, the sirens. They're still not letting anyone into the area except for LG&E, except for phone company employees, people who have to get in and restore essential services to the Tanyard Springs neighborhood. Earlier in the evening, we did have a photographer in the neighborhood, and he talked to a woman named Kathy Carmichael about the damage to her home and to the neighborhood.
Well, you could see the clouds forming around into like a cylinder, and I mean, you could see them start spinning. And my neighbor called me. She said, "Look at your front door," and that's what I saw, was the clouds were just moving real fast, and they were. And then we went to the basement. I didn't want to see no more.
This is why she wanted to stay in her basement. This is a church in the subdivision, Summit Hills Fellowship Church of the Nazarene. It suffered extensive damage. The homes in Tanyard Springs, some weren't touched, others are trashed. Some of the residents in the neighborhood have not been able to get to their homes. Others have been able to get to their homes, but it's been a tough night for everyone, whether their home was damaged or not, because either they have damage or they don't have damage and they don't know it and they can't get to their homes. And that video we just showed you was some of the damage that is the least of the damage. Throughout the night we've shown you the more extensive damage from Sky 11, and you can see from the Sky 11 pictures that George showed you just how bad it is just behind us. Gary, Melissa.
All right, Jim Turner reporting live tonight from Tanyard Springs, one of the hardest hit areas. We will tell you in just a few minutes information about shelters in the area. That will be especially important to those people who live in that area that Jim was just talking about. If you need that information, then grab a pen and paper or whatever, and we'll tell you about it in just a moment.
Right now we want to go to our Stephanie Collins. She just returned from Mount Washington tonight. And Stephanie, what can you tell us about what you saw there?
Well, Melissa, we took Interstate 65 and then took the Mount Washington exit. And, you know, as soon as we pulled off the interstate, you could see power lines down, power out across that whole area and trees down. But as we got closer into Mount Washington, it absolutely became apparent what had happened to this community. Now, we're looking at some video here off Highway 44 and the Northfield neighborhood. Lumber, home insulation, clothes strewn across yards leading up to shells where homes minutes earlier had stood. Volunteer police from Jefferson County patrolled the neighborhood and were waiting for help from the National Guard. Everyone we talked to said it's a miracle tonight they're alive. Mount Washington, where at least 40 homes were ripped apart when a tornado came through here. We're going to talk to Daryl Harold. Behind us is what's left of his home right now. What happened, sir?
I don't know. A little bit after 7, we come from the Little League field, and they had the sirens go off, so they canceled the game, and a lot of the parents, you know, come back to their houses, and we just got in the hallway bathroom. It sounded like a train. You hear all these stories and everything that everybody says. It's true, you know. Get in the hallway bathroom, we did that, and that's the only part of the house is actually, you know, in good shape. Our car was in a garage. This car here, it's outside the garage right now. I know the neighbor across the street was in his hallway bathroom. And
you had children at home?
Yeah, well, all 5 of us was in a little small bathroom in the hallway. I got 3 kids. And
what did you think when you first walked out and saw this?
I don't know how anybody lived through it.
Yeah.
I really don't. I don't know how anybody lived through this thing, because there's, you know, tons of damage.
Thank you for talking to us. And up and down the streets here, just outside Mount Washington, it's the same story for many folks that we've talked to, all saying that it was just a blessing that they lived through this. Now, most of the people we talked to said that they believe that there had to be more than one tornado. We'll have to wait for official confirmation on that. They said that they saw one come through, it disappeared, then they thought they saw another one. So, Melissa, folks, there you can see that there was just absolute destruction of the Northfield neighborhood. Kind of a strange coincidence. Back in 1974, we were talking about the Northfield neighborhood then that got hit. But you can see the amount of destruction when you're just on the ground walking through there. Folks, hopeful, though, that the police are staying through the night because of reports of looting in that area. They've also gotten a lot of help from volunteers from Jefferson County who are down there, police departments helping, walking the neighborhoods, making sure that no one is stuck inside any of these homes. When we left, there was a report that they were going to go to one apartment where they thought maybe somebody was stuck inside that apartment. We have not heard back yet, though, to confirm whether or not anyone, in fact, was trapped inside one of those homes.
All right, Stephanie, thank you very much. Gary and I were just talking about an odd coincidence, a Northfield and a Northfield. Well, you know, with the popularity of video cameras, inevitably in a storm like this, someone is able to catch it on videotape. And tonight, we had several calls from many of our viewers about video you shot of the tornadoes. This video is from Mount Washington, the Mount Washington area. And we want you now to look at the winds whipping through and the funnel cloud. You'll see it as it takes shape along the clouds. Tony Glass captured this tornado. There you see how huge it was. Forming and moving around his neighborhood on Linwood Drive around 7 o'clock tonight. You'll see it go up into the air. And here as Tony describes what he saw.
About 5 minutes till 7, we noticed a funnel cloud coming between these 2 houses here. I got the camera out, started watching it, and for about 5 minutes we watched it move from that direction and just keep on spinning this way. You can actually see the vortex spinning. We've collected a handful of fiberglass insulation, foam rubber, tar paper, and even a dog's leash.
Now, we asked Mr. Glass if he was frightened as the storm came through. He said, you noticed the video shaking, so that was his hands shaking because he was a little nervous about that.